Welcome back to Patman Garage. So today we are jumping into AC compressor. We're going to use the factory 4.6 compressor with the adapter bracket. So I'm going to show you what that looks like and jump right into it. And then we'll use the existing AC lines. They should all work. And yeah, it should be a pretty straightforward system to set up, with the exception we might have to do a little bit on the wiring side. But overall, pretty simple. So for starters, I'm going to need to remove the Coyote AC compressor. So under the car here, we've got our 10mm mounting bolts. We've got 3 mounting bolts, 1, 2, 3. And the compressor should come off pretty easily. There's actually a lot of space under here, especially with the aftermarket K-member. Definitely frees up a lot of space. And then we'll get this wiring pulled out of here as well, and should be pretty straightforward. So this is the conversion bracket. This is a kit from Power by the Hour, and we'll get this thing opened up. Looks like they're Allen keys on the shorter bolts that go to the block, or bracket to block, and then we'll have new compressor bolts. So we'll get this thing opened up and figure out what these sizes are and get back onto the car. So the bottom bracket is pretty self-explanatory. There's a notch cut out that goes around there's a bolt that sticks out. That's pretty self-explanatory about where that one's going to go. And the upper bracket is in place, but it can actually rotate around the bolt at any position. So I'm going to have to figure out exactly where that one gets clocked in at. I think about like that, but we'll mock the 4.6 compressor up here real quick and figure out where it needs to sit. The Allen heads are metric 6, and the new compressor bolts are 13mm, so we're going to jump into test fit. So I dug the donor box out of the back of the car, which had all the 4.6 stuff in it. This is the original 4.6 harness. I found my pigtail for my compressor, cut it off, and that'll be ready to get wired in. And then it still has the manifold hoses on it. I have no idea if these are going to fit and play nice. It may make it more difficult to install, but we're going to leave them in until we know we need to take them off for sure. But we'll see how that goes. And eyeballing the compressor mounting. Of course, this is upside down, or this is the block side, I should say. But these are going to be directly across from each other on that big span. So I need to rotate this one until it lines up vertically in line with the other two bolt holes, or the other bolt hole. So we'll get that other one set up real quick, and then we'll get the compressor installed. Alright, so I've got the bottom bracket torqued down, and I went ahead and clocked that in the upright position. That seemed to match my positioning a little bit better in line. Technically, if it was rotated 90 degrees clockwise, it would also decently line up, but I believe since this guy gets moved up and kind of forward, then this guy also needs to get moved up and forward as well. So we'll test fit this and see how that works out. And now we have the 4.6 compressor bolted in place. So I left my Coyote wiring intact here, just to give me a little bit of flexibility. I probably will end up removing this, but just for now I'm going to let it hang. And then this is my 4.6 compressor wiring, which will need to get wired back in. I'm probably going to also have to wire in the factory pressure switches. One of them was on this manifold hose. It went up pretty high. And we'll start looking at hose routing and stuff on the top side. And hopefully we have all the AC lines for this car, but I'm going to take y'all back up on the top side and see what we look like up there. So we will need to get the belt routed in here. Just a quick point of notes on this. The factory 4/6 belt should have been a 8 rib or 6 rib depending on the design, and then the AC belt for the Coyote is a 4 rib. On my Coyote swap truck, I'm running this exact same setup with the Coyote belt on here. You just need to make sure that when you line up the belt that it's on grooves that are matching straight down. So I think you'll end up with 2 extra ribs on the backside if I remember correctly. And like I said, it's totally fine doing it that way. You just need to know ahead of time that what to look out for. And other than that, our AC line here should route up to our condenser, which is kind of buried at the moment. So everything should be working on that. It looks like there was probably some sort of support bracket on the maybe timing cover of the 4/6 right here. So we may see if we can get that where this harness is instead. Pull the harness back out and see if we can't get a bolt in there or something maybe. Would be nice to help support that AC line a little bit. And then this AC line here should just go straight on, and this harness is just in the way. Let's get that taken care of. Okay. That AC line should just go right on there. I'm going to lubricate the O-rings before I pop it on there. Just make sure we don't have any issues going on. And then, like I said, we'll see if we can get a bolt started in that hole here for the timing cover. That actually looks like that'll line up pretty close. We're a little bit high, but I think if we bend the bracket a little bit, we can get there. So we're getting ready to put the belts back on, especially for the AC. I'm going to pull this, just set it off to the side for the moment. So I've got the belt started to be routed around the tensioner. You kind of have to slide it in behind the tensioner because of the bridge for the tensioners in front. But what I'm running into on this side, since I don't have a belt installed on the primary tensioner here, the belt is getting caught up and won't slide back into this hole. So I'm actually going to have to rotate the tensioner to get the belt enough slack so I can slide it backwards in there. So I'm going to do that real quick. I just wanted you to see that as a potential problem you may run into with your car. See, I'm just not quite enough space to force it in there. So shouldn't be a big deal, but we'll get that moved over. All right, so this is a 15 millimeter on the tensioner, and you need to rotate pushing down on this side counterclockwise. And what you're looking for is this little triangle down here. You can see is sticking really close to the pulley, and that's your main interference. So you need to rotate that until it's out of the way. So we're going to show you what that looks like there. So even with that removed or down, it's still a really tight fit, but you're never going to get it through without that triangle getting moved. So now that the belt is correctly routed, we should be able to just put our regular 3/4 ratchet here on this tensioner, which should be going down on the arm, so clockwise, and then we should be able to pull the belt onto the last idler pulley. So I was going off of memory earlier, and I was incorrectly remembering, but the belt will sit on the back half of the pulley, 4 ribs. Anytime you install a belt, I always recommend taking your finger and kind of working around underneath the pulleys that you can't see, and make sure that it's actually installed correctly on the ribs. So what I usually feel for is kind of whatever lip I'm working against, and just kind of smooth around and make sure the belt's not flipped off off one side of it. And it should be pretty easy to figure that out. But so we got AC belt installed, and we'll do the primary feed belt next, and then we should be able to put the intake tube on for the last time. So there's the correct belt routing for the primary belt, which should be crank to tensioner around a water pump, then down to alternator, and then back around. I did see a lot of chatter of people complaining about fitment of different radiator hoses on the alternator. I wanted to go and show you I got plenty of airspace there. Actually slide my whole finger through there, so we're good there. But I'm using a Ford factory hose and the original alternator. I think where people run into issues is the some of the aftermarket accessory kits that offer the alternator relocation, and then you put a power steering pump in this location, because the power steering pump has just a massive pulley on it, and I think getting up into the belt, or get the pulley face up into the radiator hose up in there, and then when they relocate, the alternator will be here facing outward. I've never liked it cosmetically just because it looks like such an afterthought. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So we are just about wrapped up on the AC functions mechanically. So we're going to wrap up this video, and I will, whatever point I get around to doing the AC wiring part, which will be at a later date, I will show you my game plan on that, which probably will involve some more diagrams. And even though we're using all the existing wiring, or existing sensors and existing switches and all that, AC compressor, clutch, the factory 4.6 integrated the PCM in the loop of turning the compressor on. So we will need to bypass that and then wire in our own switches for that. It's not nearly as intimidating as it sounds, but yep, that's it. We're going to wrap this video up, and we'll save that part for another time. So I appreciate you guys watching a quick video, and I will catch you in the next one.